Do you want me to leave for the rest of the meeting at that point if that's our
Well,
last item before administrative, or what do you want me to do?
well,
Stick around?
it's up to you, Jeff. You can do whatever you want. You're free to stay on if you want to, but
Okay.
you won't be called upon to offer anything.
All right. Yeah, I just didn't know if I was, allowed per se to sit around while you guys discussed it, or if I had to leave the
Yeah.
room and turn it off or join back up. Okay. All right.
Even if we were in-person meetings, we'd still be allowed to stay in the room. We just couldn't. You just have to move out to the audience and stuff.
All right. I'll push myself away from my desk so I'm not seated with you guys.
You can listen. Okay, I got 7:01 now, so why don't we call the meeting to order? Rob, can you call the roll, please? Rob, can you call the roll?
Oh, did I miss that? Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Commissioner Gore?
Commissioner Gwarek here.
Commissioner Locks?
Commissioner Lax here.
Commissioner Wolowski?
Commissioner Wolowski here.
Commissioner Volpe?
Commissioner Volpe just sent me a text. She's having trouble connecting.
Okay. Alternate Albanese? Alternate Coles?
Alternate Coles is present.
Alternate Coviello?
Alternate Coviello here.
Alternate Salvacool?
Yeah.
That's not supposed to be there. Secretary Santiago?
Santiago's here.
Vice Chair Salka?
Salka here.
And Chairman Hammersley.
Hammersley's here. Yeah, Christina sent me that same text, Caleb. So I guess we'll wait if we need to see you in her place when it comes time, then we'll do that. So, so we have a floor. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Bob's got his flag. Right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You just remain standing for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Item number 6 on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the last regular meeting on February 16th, 2021. Do we have a motion?
Commissioner Salka will make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 16th meeting.
Welcome to the motion. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Lax, second.
Commissioner Rock, is there any discussion of this? Any changes? We're did a great job again. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 7A. David M. Goldberg, special permit application to construct a garage in excess of 3 spaces, property located at 267 Berlin Avenue in an R12 zone, parcel size 0.56 acres, SPA 646. It's Mr. Gold in the house. There he is. Welcome, David. How are you this evening? David, you're muted right now. You got to remember to unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Christina Volpe's here, so she could smile now.
So, just to confirm, those that are seated are Gorick, Locks, Wolowski, Santiago, Salka, Hammersley, and now Volpe?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. David, welcome, and why don't you tell us what you plan on doing and give us an overview of what's going on?
Thanks, sir. I wanted to take down the 2-car garage that was currently existing, expand it to a 3-car, but elongate it so I could put my RV into it. So that would require a longer building than normal you would be.
Okay, and you have a, go ahead. Sorry.
So it'll be 36 wide, but 45 deep.
Okay, do we have a height on this?
About 20 feet.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and share the plans here. 1 second.
Yeah. David, you've done everything. I think you sent out the notice to your budding neighbors and all that. So, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've owned that property for 26 years, so I'm on good relations with all neighbors. I've brought
So
everything.
far,
Say
I said, so far you have good relations with all of those.
so far, well, so far in.
No, I'm sure you're a good neighbor. Rob's trying to put your plan up on the screen for us, so we'll just wait holding pattern. Is there anything else you want to add to this, David, before we open it up to members of the public to for whatever they might have?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I want to take down the car and bring in a 3-car, just deeper, you know, so I can put my RV in there.
Okay.
Not too crazy.
Brad, are you gonna be able to get that up there?
Yeah, it's the little hourglass is spinning, so I'm having a problem here.
Okay.
I have plans here too for the help.
Yeah, we all get these. It's up on the website, so I don't. While Rob is trying, I'm just going to open up to members of the public. If there's anyone out there who would like to testify in favor of this application, could they just please identify themselves? You got to unmute yourself, identify yourself, and let us know what your thoughts are.
Hello, my name is Victoria Basil. I own
Hi,
a
Victoria, how are
property.
you?
Great, thank you. Hope you all are well. I own a property on Greeley, and I saw the plans that Mr. Gold provided, and I think it looks very nice, and I would have no objection to having that in the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome.
Got the summation of your comments? Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if you want to ask me any questions about it, but I think it's up on the screen now. I think that looks really, really nice, and it's better than looking at an RV, I would say.
I would tend to agree with that personally. Is there any questions of Ms. Basal from commission members?
Mr. Chairman, just one point. I'm having a very difficult time understanding you. Same problem we had earlier today. I'm having trouble understanding your words, actually. I don't know if there's something wrong with the mic, or I don't know, maybe nobody else is having a problem.
Yeah, comm is a little bit murky.
Yeah.
I would agree.
The same setup I usually use, so I guess we'll just try to walk through it. Are there any comments from members of the commission?
Yeah.
Taylor?
There's no call, Mr. Chairman, there's no call-in, and I'm also trying to make sure that other people are muted so we can have the clearest audio possible. So I apologize to anybody who keeps getting muted.
Okay, Caleb, Mr. Coles has a raised his hand. So, Caleb, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, thanks for bringing this forward to us. We really appreciate it. I just want to kind of put a couple of comments on the record. I guess there was a one letter in opposition.
Wait, Caleb,
yes,
this is the questions for Ms. Basal. We have the public portion is still open right now.
Gotcha. No, I'm okay then.
If there's any questions of Ms. Basal's testimony?
I apologize, Mr. Chair.
That's all right. Just sit tight a little bit. We'll get there. So, do you have any questions, Victoria, or are you all set? You're all set? Okay. Thank you, Victoria. We appreciate you coming out tonight and appreciate you testifying on this. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to testify in favor of this application? Again, please unmute yourself, identify yourself, and let us know what your thoughts are. Seeing none, are there any members of the public who'd like to testify in opposition to this application? Again, unmute yourself, identify yourself, and let us know what your thoughts are.
Mr. Chairman, Rob Phillips, just to make sure that it's covered in the meeting here, we do have letters of support from, I'm going to say this wrong, but Zonkowski, Mercea, Nan LLC, Cardinal Crest Condominiums, and Jose. Those are 5 letters of support in the file.
Okay. Thanks for that. I appreciate putting that on. One more time, if there's anyone in opposition. Okay, and as Caleb noted, there was one email that I think everybody received yesterday at about 12:40 yesterday afternoon. David, have you seen that letter?
No.
It comes from Paul and Susan Grenier. And 3730/7 Prosperity Court. And they raised a couple of questions, which I would ask you to address here before we open up to other commissioners. One was, what is the plan on the east side of this oversized building? Will there be some sort of view blockage for the east side of the building? How many people pile stuff behind the garage? As a comment.
I'm sorry, you were a little bit murky. Can you repeat that, please?
Sure. What's the plan on the east side of the building?
What's the plan on the east side of the building?
Yeah,
East side.
they're concerned about blockage of the view.
It'll probably be some type of either arborvitae or similar plants to block the view.
Okay. The second question was, what assurances do we have that the oversized building will not be converted for alternative use in the future? I think part of the application requires you to submit an affidavit that's not going to be used for business. I think you did that.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, yes.
In the event that the RV gets sold and you don't want it any longer, is there any plan to use that building structure for anything else?
No.
Okay. And the third
Like I said-
question, go ahead.
I've owned the property for 26 years, so I've been there for a while. There's no plans for anything else but that.
And the third question, just for the record, actually sounds more like a question for town staff, is whether the town zoning officer will check on it periodically to make sure it's strictly used as a garage for a 40-foot RV. And I think that they routinely drive around town and see if there's any issues.
Yeah, Rob Phillips again, Director of Planning. We don't routinely canvass neighborhoods looking for violations. So the reality is, and especially with situations where a structure may be being used for something other than a residential use, like a business, they are difficult to enforce. So we do rely upon, obviously, any complaints and any evidence, particularly photo evidence or timestamps or anything that or anything we could find online that would help us enforce a situation that may not be being used as residential. So it's a long-winded answer, but we don't routinely drive through neighborhoods, looking for violence.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Let's go down the list. Well, rather than do that, why don't we just see if there's any commissioners that have any questions of the applicant on this one? Kayla, I know you raised your hand earlier. I'll give you the floor first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry for going out of order.
Sure.
Hi, Dave. Thank you for the applications. I'll get back into my shtick. So I guess the only question I had is the existing garage that you have there now, this is going to go into that same essential footprint with the addition of the extra bay?
Yes, what I want to do is build it directly in back of it. So I have stuff in the garage now. I want to build the 3-car in back of it and then transfer the stuff that's in the 2-car into the 3.
So but is the plan to demo the 2?
Yes.
Okay. So then when you demo the 2, you'll be lengthening your driveway towards the rear of the property?
Yes.
Okay. And then as I was just I love the GIS map. It gives us such a bird's eye view of things. So as you go a little bit farther back, and I'm kind of speaking to the concerns of the neighbors, are you going to have to take some trees down? It looks like from behind that area, you've got some nice.
No. Although on the sideline, we are taking down some trees there because we spoke with some of the neighbors, and the trees are older trees, and the limbs are falling, creating a hazard.
Okay.
So what our plan is, I spoke with neighbors on both sides and in the back in the condos, and we kind of want to level it off a little bit, replant some fresh trees to try and revitalize the area a little bit. If that answers your question, but no, we won't take down any more trees as far as for the building.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that was really my question about how it's going to impact. And so you are going to have a little bit more impervious driveway there. Did you consider how that might impact any runoff either on your property or the neighboring properties? and I guess let me frame it so kind of me so you can go out where I'm going with this question. Is there a concern with the lengthening of your driveway because it's going to go on top of that existing pad where the 2-car garage is? Is that close to a property line?
No.
Okay. All right. That's my question right there. Thank you, Mr. Gold. Thank you,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Chair.
Okay, thanks, Dennis, as always, good questions. Any other questions or comments from members of the commission? Peterson, Pavement.
Thank you. So, just Mr. Gold, I think your application is very thorough. I appreciate all the maps, the affidavit, all that. So, kudos to you for being very thorough. Thank you so much for that. I guess my question, as far as the rendering, because the regulations say, and we've done this in the past, that an existing, when you have a freestanding building like that, it must match materials and things like that of your existing main structure. So I don't know if your rendering is actual, how it's going to look or whatever, but are the materials and things that you're going to put on the new building consistent with your existing residence?
Absolutely. That's what my main plan is. That's the goal.
Okay.
Is to blend it in and create, we're going to replant the trees, create privacy, privacy hedges or arborvitae or something of that nature.
Yeah.
The building goes, absolutely, it'll blend in with the neighborhood.
Okay. That's all I have. Commissioner Cole asked the questions that I was wondering about, so I'm good, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Peter. Any other questions from members of the commission? Is there any reason to keep this hearing open?
Mr. Chair, it's Commissioner Gorek.
Yep, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask the applicant one
ahead.
question. Are there any existing sheds or accessory structures besides that detached garage on the property?
No.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Mr. Commissioner, Steve Wolowski,
Yep, go ahead, Steve.
one quick question for the applicant. He's referenced the plantings. I think, it's within our rights to stipulate that those plantings occur?
Yeah,
Okay, I would like to see that happen.
okay.
Yeah, we have no problem with that at all.
Okay,
Yeah, when we come to the business section, Steve, you can talk about
okay,
that.
all right.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
David, you're okay with that, David?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Bob, welcome.
when I went to your property today, I drove by the property, I noticed that you got a gazebo on the, I guess it's the south side. And you also have a large metal container in the back right of your property. Is that going to stay there?
No. No, that's temporary.
Okay, could we also stipulate that that will be removed as well?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
no problem.
Any other comments from members of the commission? Christina Beloki, go ahead.
Good evening. I was a little late to the party, so I just want to be sure. I'm looking at the rendering here, and there is this lovely loft windows. And did you lose me? Did I lose you? Am I back now?
Keep going.
I can.
Sorry about that. Okay, so apologies. There is no intended use to rent or anything like that. What is the purpose of the loft? Is that going to be like a living area, or is it for storage? I might have missed that.
It's storage. That's storage. I do
Okay.
painting restorations and stuff, so it'd be something to tinker around with that.
Okay, I have no further questions to that. That's my jam.
Yeah, good point, Christina. David, what's the approximate square footage of that storage area? Okay.
I believe it to be around 900 on top.
Okay. Any other questions for members of the commission? Rob, any reason to, or anyone, is there any reason to leave this public hearing open, or are we all set?
No, I don't see a reason to leave it open. Everything that we require in the file and is there, and the regulations as well.
And Rob, does this application meet our regulations?
Yes, it does. I mean, obviously, anything over that threshold 1,092 square feet, that kicks it up to the special permit level, which is discretionary for the grant. So yes.
Okay. Thanks, Rob. David, I give you one last chance to say anything you want for the record during the public hearing portion. So go ahead if you have anything to add.
No, I think that's it.
Okay, thanks. So we'll close the public hearing on this and we'll move on to item 8A. David M. Gold, special permit application to construct a garage in excess of 3 spaces, property located at 267 Berkeley Avenue. And our call zone parcel size 0.56 acres, SPV 646. So what do we think about that?
Mr. Chairman, are you looking for a motion? I'm sorry. I'm having trouble.
If you want to offer one, Bob, so go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve application SPU 646 with the following stipulations: that the large container at the rear of the property will be removed, that there'll be no business operated out of this facility, and the plantings of arborvitaes or some other barrier will be in the back of the property along the property line.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
Commissioner Lax seconds.
Thank you, sir. Is there any discussion? I tried to unplug my mic and plug it back in, hoping that might be the trick. But
Mr. Chair, question for Commissioner Salka. It's Jeff Gorick.
Yes.
yeah, Commissioner Boyd, go
Can
ahead.
you just go through the stipulations again? For some reason, I just missed one or two.
The first stipulation was the removal of the large metal container in the rear of the property.
Okay.
No business will be run out or operated out of the garage.
Yep.
And the plantings of the arborvitaes will be along the rear of the property line, creating a barrier.
Okay. Do we need to add anything about make sure that he demos the existing garage, or that's just assumed and we're good with it?
Well, I think he stated that as part of the
Okay.
his application.
I just didn't want to see 5 garages.
But I'll leave that
on a
to
property.
the chair to make that determination.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, Rob, I don't think we need to stipulate that. It's on the plans right now.
Right.
Yeah, correct. I mean, we obviously based our review upon the removal of the existing structure. So
I think we're good, Jeff, and Silka. Any further discussion? Being done, Rob, can you call the roll, please?
Gorick,
Commissioner Gorick, yes.
Locks,
Commissioner Lax, yes.
Wolowski,
Wolowski, yes.
Volpe,
Commissioner Volpe, yes.
Santiago,
Santiago, yes.
Salka,
Salka, yes.
Chairman Hammersley.
Harris is a yes. Motion carries 7-0. Congratulations, David. Best of luck. Moving on to item 8E, Royal Court LLC, 3-lot subdivision application, 351 West Street in the R12 zone, parcel size 1.4 acres. That's for 1326. Seb, is this you?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner members. Seb Bovino, planner with Kratzer Jones, represented the applicant. I'm going to share my screen with you to show you the plans. Okay, this property is located at 351 West Street at the corner of West Center Street. It is zone R12, served by public water and sewer. The land area is 1.4 acres. It's sloping from the east to west. It is an open field with trees along the West Street area and the east property line.
Excuse me, Sev.
Yes,
We don't see a screen share here.
you didn't hear?
All we see is you.
What did you say?
All we see is you. We don't see any plans. You're not sharing your screen.
You don't see any plans?
No.
Huh. I got it on my screen here. Let's see.
Go ahead, share.
Okay, let me zip out of this. Let me share. I thought I shared. Try this.
Look, it's coming up.
No, that's the agenda. Okay, can you see these plans?
Yes.
Can you see the plans?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. This property is located at the corner of West and West Center Street. It's on R12, served by public water and sewer. The land area is 1.4 plus minus acres. It slopes from east to west. It is an open field right now with trees along West Street and east property line. The proposed subdivision is for 3 lots, 1 single family on West Street and 2 duplex on West Center Street. The 2 units in each duplex share a curb cut, have a backup area to prevent any problems on the roadway for the vehicles to be able to turn around and exit the property. There are existing walks on West Street. We propose about 290 feet of new walks along West Center Street, which is this area here. The proposed lot 2 in the corner, lot number 2, will have a sideline easement for cars approaching the intersection, looking south to make sure that a left turn will be a safe left turn. The easement area is in this area right here. It's quite a bit of a space to allow a car that's coming from the east to the intersection to make a safe left turn movement. In addition, we propose to deed to the town of Southington a strip of land at the corner to allow for a good radius in this corner here. The land area is about 51 square feet. The side distance coming out of the proposed single family, which is right here, the driveway for the single family is right here, is 500 feet north and 500 feet south. The posted speed limit is 30 miles per hour. We are proposing underground storage for the clean roof water to allow infiltration. Each one of these duplexes will have underground storages here and here, and these 2 locations. And the house will have underground storage on the north side. There's 1 connection from a proposed yard drain into an existing catch basin on West Street. At this location, we propose a yard drain to intercept some runoff, and then via pipe will be connected to the basin on the east side of West Street. We will save as many trees as possible of the old trees that are existing along West Street. Some of them are very old and the trees are falling down, so some of them will be cut. We propose to add new trees based on the regulations along West Center Street and if necessary on West Street. We received staff comments, reflected any changes on the plans and provided written responses. We also received water department approval. At this point, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Okay, thanks, Ed. So why don't we start with Commissioner Volpe? Any questions?
Commissioner Volpe? Me?
Yeah. I figured while we got you here,
Sure.
first thing I was.
I'm going to share another.
Really toughed up tonight, Mr.
I'm going to share another plan so it's a little bit easier to see.
Yeah, that's helpful for people like me, because I can see it better.
I appreciate that. This is Commissioner Volpe here. I don't have any questions at this time, Mr. Chair. However, I may want to circle back after hearing my fellow commissioners, because I'm still kind of formulating after all that. But thank you, Seth. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Clark, any questions?
This is Commissioner Gwark. I have one I guess I would call it a major concern because I've driven that street and stopped at West Center and trying to take a left onto West Street there at that stop sign, and it's people flying back and forth. I guess my concern would be the house, the single family house in the driveway and the proposed trees there. Is it gonna affect sightlines at all? Because I know it's a real pain if you want to take a left there on a West Street. So I'm more worried about the sightlines, and if there's cars parked in that driveway, is it gonna affect any of that the sightlines there? That's it.
No, the sight line, you coming out of your driveway, the sight distance is taken 15 feet back from the edge of road, right here, 15 feet back. The sight distance is this line right there. So there will not be any cars parked in this area. The cars will be parked either in the front of the garage or in the backup area.
So Seth, just so you know, when you're pointing to things on your screen, it's Rob Phillips' screen that's being shared right now. We can't really see what you're pointing to.
It's Commissioner Gwark again. So you're not proposing any plantings any closer than they are currently on West Street. So you're not going to block. Basically, if you're driving down West Center Street to the west and you stop at that stop sign and you look left, there's not going to be any fencing or trees or anything blocking your view to cars flying up West Street to the north is basically my major sticking point.
Yes, no, we're not planting any new trees in this area because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 right here, large trees.
Okay.
And maybe we'll cut one that's dead, if it's in poor shape. And the sight distance is provided right here from this point.
Yep,
down
I see
in this
on the
area
map.
here. Nothing can be planted in this area, all this area here.
Okay, perfect. That's it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Jeff. Commissioner Wallace.
Yeah, just look at, so the area right at the intersection, that triangle basically is the land you're going to give to the town, which will provide, sight lines from both directions is what you're saying.
Could you repeat the question?
I'm looking at the plans, so there's kind of a triangle that's indicated with differently, which at the intersection, which provides sight lines from both West Center and West Street, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Coles?
I think that Commissioner Walowski kind of discussed what I was most concerned with. I guess my question is this: it's that piece that the town's getting, we're not going to need to have to maintain that. That's going to be part of the maintenance for. I believe it covers both those properties, the one to the north and the one to the south. It takes a little piece of that on the corner there. Is that right?
The piece in the corner, it's just in case the town wants to improve this radius here. So we did in a little bit of land here to allow that radius. Right now it comes to a straight line. The intersection, the pavement goes straight to the curb line of West Street. So if the town wants to improve this turning movement here, they can.
Okay, but and I don't know if this is a staff question or if this is a sub question, but we're not gonna have to mow the lawn, are we?
You're not.
The town's not gonna have to mow the lawn.
No.
Yeah, the property owner will take care of the lawn as any property owner in town. It's including the sidewalk area will be maintained by the property owner.
Okay. All right, I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Commissioner Locke?
Yes, Commissioner Wax here. So the side that is abutting the David property, it looks like we're getting a little close there to the property line. Is there a fence or something in there, or am I missing it?
Right here?
Yes.
There is an arborvitae, a row of arborvitaes right here along this property line. There's no fencing.
There's no fencing?
No.
Okay. How close are you there?
It's a minimum required is 10 feet, and we're about 11 feet. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, you are
It's
11.
15
Okay.
No, it's 15 feet. I'm looking at it, it's 15 feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
No more questions.
You all set, sir?
Yep.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman?
Who's
Mr.
that?
Chairman, I just, Commissioner Locks, I believe your question was on the David property, which is next to the duplex. I believe Sev was referring to the row of arborvitae to the bottom of the page. Am I correct?
Yeah,
Towards the existing
I
building?
would agree with that. I think that Seth was referring to the row of arborvitae's on the south side of the property.
Yeah, so he didn't answer Commissioner Locke's question.
All right, so
You're correct. I was
just
referring to the
Seth,
south
before-
side. So along here, we have an existing tree line. And distance to the property line here is 21.3 feet.
Just for clarification, that's on the David property, which looks like it's to the east, on the east side of the development there. Right? That's number 426.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're addressing, sir?
Yes, I'm concerned of where the driveway is coming out and how the house is right there, and if cars are parked over, they're gonna be going into his property.
We're not going to go into their property, no. You're talking about this backup area?
Right by, it says 202 or 2, it's hard to tell on this.
262.
262.
Yeah,
Yeah,
262.
Yeah, that's about 60 feet from the edge of the paved area to the property line.
Okay, so on that property line, right behind that, there's not gonna be anything there.
No. The property line is right here where the green ends, the green area ends. And then our backup area is a few feet to the west.
And I think it would be wise to plant even a couple of trees along that side.
So are there any plans to put any plantings out there as a buffer between the two properties?
We can plant some arborvitaes there if the commission prefers that. It's up to you.
I would prefer, but it's only me.
No, I agree with you, Sue.
Okay. Thanks, Sue. Any other questions, Sue, or are you all set for now?
All set.
You're all set. Okay. Commissioner Coviello.
No additional questions, Bob. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Commissioner, let's go back to Commissioner Volpe.
Commissioner Volpe here. Yes, I do have one question now. I do agree with Sue and Commissioner Walowski that there should be something in between the two residences, just because the driveways are going to be a bit close from what I'm seeing here, and it would provide that privacy both for the new people within the dwelling and for the current homeowner. So I do agree. The other thing is I noticed that there wasn't a rendering, and I know that we don't really have to have much visuals with this insofar, but I just want to assure that this is going to kind of fit in with the existing neighborhood. Is it going to be vinyl siding? Just if you could give us some details, I'm interested. That's my question.
Chairman, you want me to answer the question?
Yeah, the question's to you, Seth, so go ahead.
Okay. The siding most likely is going to be vinyl. Nowadays, people use vinyl siding everywhere. The architectural is going to be colonial in style, so it will blend with the neighborhood.
Okay, thanks. I'll try to imagine it from that. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Thanks, Christina. Commissioner Santiago.
Yeah, I'm in agreement on the plantings as well. And I had the question on the rendering. too, just to see what it is. So just procedurally, Rob, so because this is a residential zone, this isn't us having to say whether or not you can build something here. This, our purview is, because that point's moot. This is solely a site plan for us, correct?
Yeah, so actually, this is a subdivision application, so it's very similar to a site plan application in the sense that if it meets the regulations, you do have a duty to approve.
Okay.
It's literally just subdividing land. It's not, approving any development, proposal. So what would happen here is if it's approved, the land would be subdivided and it would sit there empty until they apply for building and zoning permits for, the single family home or the duplex development. So, and we have obviously very limited oversight on the type of construction that's going to be done. So, because it's a residential zone, it's so really you're just looking at it from a subdivision standpoint, subdivision of land if it meets the regulations.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. Just I just like to be clarity wise about what we're voting for or listening to. So by virtue of, I mean, breaking this up into three, I mean, I share Commissioner Gork's concern on that single family at the bottom simply because it's on West Street. But just because I wouldn't live there doesn't mean that's not okay. And if it's breaking up into three, I don't know a better way to break this up, quite honestly, because of the sight lines and all that kind of thing. So I appreciate that top corner there is going to be free from that to that. So other than the plantings, I don't really have much else to say, I guess. So I'll yield my time.
Peter, time is yielded to Commissioner Salka. So Commissioner Salka, any questions for the applicant?
Basically, I have one concern and one question. That the concern I have is just another curb cut on West Street. As everybody knows, cars fly down that thing. I just have a concern about that curb cut pulling out on West Street on that single family home. I just hope they're aware of what's happening on that West Street. But my main question is the arborvitae's on the south side. It looks like you've got a row that's halfway. I don't know if you can move that drawing up a little bit, Seb or Rob.
Yeah.
Would you?
The arborvitae's are right here.
Yeah, you got arborvitae's along. Is there any? And you've got the whole. All you're looking at is a building. Can you put arborvitae's the entire length of that south side of that property within the sight line, obviously, instead of just right in the middle there?
From this point toward West Street?
I don't see any arrow, but
okay. Are you
starting from that single family house all the way back to, I guess it's Ruth Kurt's property. You've got a building and then just a parcel. I'm wondering why you didn't run arborvitae the whole length of that south side.
Bob, just as a clarification, those are existing plants. Nothing's been proposed there.
Right, I think what Commissioner Salka is asking is would the applicant be willing to extend those arborvitae's down to the back corner of that subdivision?
That's what I'm asking. Thank you.
Yeah. Question for you.
the applicant, I believe, is on the meeting. If he can answer that question, if he's not available, you could stipulate that we could start at the end of the existing arborvitae's and extend them further west towards the residential area.
I think that would be east, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it's east.
East, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to stipulate that as part of a motion, if that's possible, along with the arborvitae's they're talking about on the driveway.
Is the applicant, I believe it's William Wells, is he on the meeting right now? I don't hear anything, but Bob Soka, I don't know if you have any other other thoughts.
I have no additional questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, yeah, I'm good. I think the questions I would ask were decent questions. Are there any other questions from members of the commission, or are we ready to make a motion on this?
Mr. Chair, can I take another bite of the apple? It's Commissioner Coles.
Yep, go ahead.
So I think something that's kind of, I guess I'm channeling my inner Commissioner Albanese when I'm looking at that driveway turnaround. If we can scroll back up a little bit, just so that we can, for the benefit of the group, kind of look at this together. You know, having some arborvitaes along the back of that driveway, along the east border of the property. I don't know if you guys have noticed anything, but I've been driving around the past, I don't know, 6 or 7 months and noticed a lot of arborvitae mortality lately. And, you know, if the guy's house is right there, Mr. or the David family, if somebody was to pull up to the end of that driveway and their lights are on, God, that would ruin my day if I lived there. I just kind of want to point that out to my colleagues to kind of question if that's something that, you know, is really in the benefit of the neighborhood or the neighbors there. And if, you know, if what we're looking at here is to subdivide one lot into 3, would it be a benefit to, instead of making it 3, make it 2? So that the arrangement of the buildings could be a little bit easier, so that maybe if you do need to turn around because you are going out to West Center Street, that maybe you could do it away from that neighboring house a little bit to give it a little bit of breathing room, maybe, instead of trying to squeeze the third one single family at the southern part of the property. That was my second bite.
So do you want to address that?
Yes, I do. I appreciate the comment. However, we do have plenty of room here. We offered plantings in this area here. And the arborvitaes this year have been dying because it was a dry season, and you have seen a lot of those. But most of the time, the arborvitaes provide a nice separation. But if you are concerned about the arborvitaes, we could propose a fence in this area. The proposed lots all meet the regulations. We all have the proper frontage, proper area. There is no requirement in the zoning regulation that a driveway has to be so many feet away from a property line. As a matter of fact, this is not a driveway. This is a backup area. So you're in the garage, you're backing out, and then you make your movement out to West Center. It's not a driveway. So that's what I have to say to that.
Yeah, I think, Seth, if I can, not to speak for Caleb, but I think that, you know, it is possible that someone could front park into that section of the driveway. And I think what he's expressing is if those headlights are shining on the David property over on the east side there, that it's something that a concern. And you know, having said that, I think that your offer to either put arborvitaes, which is something that Commissioner Locke asked for, or change that out with a fence, which is a little bit more of a harder landscape, obviously, but to address the potential dying or thinning out of the arborvitaes, which is here. But I think that you addressed that. So, Caleb, I don't know if you want to add something to that or.
You break it up quite a bit. I couldn't follow your thoughts there, Mr. Chairman.
Well, go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, I'll try to bounce it back. I think he was riffing off of what I was saying, Seb. If and Mr. Chairman, if I'm doing a good job, just give me the nod. Seb, I think what we're concerned with is, you know, if there is some play there, that maybe, you know, we do see that as the potential of not just a turnaround or a backup, but an actual parking space where somebody's going to pull their vehicle up. It's kind of hard to see the distance of that, but I'd be willing to bet that asphalt there is going to be used from somebody just to park their vehicle. And that if, you know, if those arborvitaes die or whatever the case may be, you know, it's really going to be a challenge to that neighbor. And I certainly heard what you're saying is that, you know, it could be an off year, but, you know, trees come and go, and somebody who owns that particular property comes and goes, and give it a generation, you know, those trees might be gone. And what we do here today might affect the forebearers of that David property. So I'm just kind of looking down the line a little bit. I don't know,
I
Mr.
hear
Chair,
you.
if I did okay there.
Yeah, I could hear you completely. So thank you for repeating your position there. We did offer to put a fence here. So if the trees are a problem, that you think it's not something that's going to be there to protect the neighbors, we could put a fence, a 6-foot fence, which is allowed on the side yard. And there's plenty of room here to put the fence and have some green space before we get to the paved area. And this, by the way, it's the side yard of the neighbor. And if we are shielding it with a fence, I don't see what other problem is there.
So Seth, that's kind of what I was saying, is that I thought that you addressed it when you made that comment.
Now I can hear you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I monkeyed with my stuff, so. But I think that you addressed the concerns that were expressed by a number of commission members on that, you know, the effect on that lot over to the east side there.
We can actually put a fence and a row of arborvitae. There's plenty of room there to achieve both.
Well, look at you, Seth. Fantastic idea. Before we move into a motion, I know there were comments from both the planning department as well as the engineering department. So we'll start with you, Rob. Have your comments been addressed effectively?
Yeah, the whole discussion on the vegetative buffering, and I think that's been well, you know, vetted out. That was the only concern I had.
Okay, and Jim Capone is on the call as well, I believe. So Jim, have your concern been addressed?
Yeah, the applicant, Mr.
Adequately?
Chairman, has addressed all engineering comments.
Okay, so I guess we're looking for a motion on this.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve S1326 with the following stipulations. That the applicant will extend the existing row of arborvitaes to the south of the property over to the extent of the east side of the property, as well as putting a fence and or the arborvitaes along the east side of the impervious driveway along the David property line.
Okay, we got a motion from Commissioner Salka. Is there a second?
Locke seconds it.
Commissioner Locke makes a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Peter Santiago.
Go ahead, Peter.
So, Commissioner Solka, just one small thing in your motion on the east side. You said and or versus and. And I think I heard the applicant say he could put both arborvitaes and a fence. So versus either one. So I'd kind of like to take up on the versus and.
Mr. Chairman, I'll amend my motion to include and the arborvitaes and the fence along that property line.
Okay, Sue, are you okay
And
with
I'll
that?
second that motion the same way.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is
Thank
there
you.
any further discussion on this?
Mr. Chair, it's Commissioner Gorick.
Go
Just
ahead,
another
Commissioner
point
Gorick.
on that
Yep.
that motion there. We're talking just where the driveway is, not the entire property line, correct?
That is according to my motion, yes.
Okay.
That was the intent of my motion.
I didn't want him to put fence and arborvitae's all around the property like it's a castle. So okay, that was it. Thanks.
It's a moat too.
At most, yeah.
Any other from commission members on the application? Seeing none, Rob, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Gork,
Commissioner Gwarick, yes.
Box,
Commissioner Locke, yes.
Wulowski,
Wulowski, yes.
Volpe,
Chair Volpe, yes.
Centego,
Santiago, yes.
Salka,
Selka, yes.
Chairman Hammersley.
Hammersley's a yes. Motion passes 7-0. Thanks, Ev. Good job on this one.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 8C, I believe we got a request earlier today to table this item. Do we need to take
Yeah.
any formal action on this, Rob, or are we just good with that?
Just a consensus table.
Is there any objection to a tabling of this item until the next meeting on March 6th, I believe, or I'm sorry, April 6th, I believe. Seeing no objection, we'll do that. Item 8D, Hunter Build LLC versus Southington Planning and Zoning Commission appeal docket number HHD CV 206127655S. Proposed legal settlement of a previously approved with conditions imposed by the commission site plan application by I think that might be a typo, of Hunter Build LLC to permit a 30-unit multifamily residential community development with an affordable or workforce housing opportunity component consistent with and in compliance with Section 8-30G of the Connecticut General Statutes, Affordable Housing Land Use Appeals Procedure, property located at 136 Liberty Street, owned by Giamano Inc., property or parcel size approximately 1.9 acres, SPR number 1792. So before we have a conversation on this, I just want to talk about the settlement that is part of the record.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner
yeah.
Gwarick,
Oh, I'm
I'd
sorry.
like to recuse myself from any discussion on this matter.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
See, you got me there. And in your place, we'll see Commissioner Coles on this one. I think, Caleb, you sat on the original one back about a year ago. So, but I just want to talk about the proposed settlement. And this was something that was worked out between the town and parties representing Hunter Build on there. The original application that we acted on February 18th had a number of provisions, and our modifications were intended to address concerns that I think we had as a group relative to the public safety components of that. And I think that this proposed settlement is one that addresses the three primary concerns that we expressed, and those were the number of units. So this would reduce it from the original number was 30 units. It reduces it down to 28 units. It maintains the number of affordable housing components, 5 at 60% medium income, 4 at 80% medium income. So the percentage or the number actually is maintained, and therefore the percentage actually increases, which I think is a good thing in terms of the affordable housing components. Another concern that we had was parking that would result from a development or that had 30 units. We had expressed concern with spillover parking onto the street. As part of the negotiation, the applicant and the town reached an agreement as outlined in the document that we have in front of us that addresses that and actually provides for a net gain of 6 extra parking spaces. So it increases it to 72 parking spaces on this parcel. And the other concern that we had expressed with regards to access to the property of the fire personnel relative to the side yard setback. The original plan or application was to have a 10-foot side yard, and we had expressed that we wanted to see something a little bit wider. What the stipulated agreement offers is a 40-foot side yard, which I think is a good thing, and actually I think is good for not just that, but also for the abutting property owners. There were a couple other things that we mentioned in our modification that you might recall. The first one was addressing the tree canopy. That's something that actually I think was said at the time would be something that would be addressed by the fire department when and if the development is done. I think if there was a problem that they'll make sure that that gets addressed. Another thing was the utility poles, which are actually marked on, I think it's sheet C1, were marked for removal. And so we just sort of put that in our modification. It really wasn't a modification. It just was calling it out. And the last one was that we had asked for an environmental phase 2. That's not in this stipulated agreement, but I think that based on my professional and personal knowledge, that any instance where an environmental issue gets raised or concerned would need to be addressed consistent with DEEP or EPA standards and regulations. So I don't think that there's a need for us to have that in this. I think that by and large, our town council, Jeremy Taylor, who by the way is with us today, to answer any questions or to speak to anyone who might want to talk about this. I think that he did a great job. I think that at the end of the day, the town benefits from making this application a better application than it was when it initially came to us. And I think that that's through the hard work, not just of the commission members, but also the work of Jeremy and the council for Hunter Build, which I think did a good job and an admirable job. And I certainly am in support of this application as it's outlined in the stipulated agreement that we have on the record. So I don't know if anyone else has anything else to add. Attorney Taylor.
Chairman Hammersley, I think you did a great job summarizing the proposed agreement. Just for the record, I think we just need one correction. I believe the original proposed setback on the westerly side was 25 feet, and I believe the new agreement is for 40 feet. So that's just one correction for the record, but I think everything else you really accurately pertained what was in the original application compared to what is in the proposed settlement. That's all.
Thanks, Jeremy. You're correct. So, and I think at the end of the day, you know, I mean, these 830Gs get a little bit dicey with the legal component of them, and I think that at the end of the day, that this is the best settlement that the town could get without expending an extraordinary amount of money, which I don't think any of us would want to see happen, only to end up probably where we are right now. So I'm supportive of that. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add before we look for a motion on this. Seeing none, can we get a motion on this, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve SPR 1792 based on the stipulated agreement that is on the record with docket number HHD CV 20-612-7655S.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Salka. Do we have a second?
Santiago, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other conversation? Seeing none, Rob, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Fox?
Commissioner Lax, yes.
Wolowski?
Wolowski, yes.
Volpe?
Commissioner Volpe, yes.
Coles?
Coles, yes.
Santiago?
Santiago, yes.
Salka?
Salka, yes.
Hammersley?
Hammersley is a yes. Motion passes 7-0. Jeremy, thanks for all your help on this. We really appreciate it.
Nice job.
Extend our thanks to the
Thank you, Jeremy.
party as well. I think they did a great job in meeting us on this as well. So appreciate all the work that was done on that. Moving on to item 9A, request for these are administrative items. Rob, I'm not going to read these. Why don't you just go through them yourself?
Sure. Let me try and share this plan for the first one.
So 9A is on Lazy Lane. This is the police department. They're looking to put a.
Oop, wrong one. Hold on.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, it's Commissioner Gork. I'm back. Well, obviously I didn't go anywhere, but I don't need to be reseated for this if Commissioner Coles wants to get in some voting.
Well, we can reseat you, Jeff. There's not going to be another.
Okay.
I don't think there's going to be a vote on this stuff. Is there, Rob?
Well, no, I'm just looking for authorization by the commission to proceed with administrative approval.
Okay.
So I'll just ask generally at the end if there's any objection to you administratively addressing these.
Okay, I am reseated then officially.
I kept your seat warm for you.
Thank you.
Caleb, we still appreciate your input on any of this as well. So don't be shy.
I'm having problems here with downloading this plan. Interesting.
You want to talk us through that, Rob, while you're trying to get that up there?
Yeah, I'll start and I'll yield to Jim Capone as well too, because it's coming from the engineering department. But basically, it's a proposal. Oh, here we go. It's a proposal for the rear of the Southington Police Department. They have an existing outbuilding, and they're looking at expanding their asphalt parking area to the west of that building. It's fairly simple and straightforward. Jim, do you have anything to add on this? Certainly, it's obviously a need that they've identified.
Sure. Thanks, Rob. Mr. Chairman and commission members, we received a request from the police department. Right now, it's an informal parking area that they receive wrecked cars, vehicles on accidents. They get towed for investigation to the police department facility. So basically, we were asked to look into it, and we want to formalize it instead of just doing something that, wasn't part of the original site plan. So before you is, as Mr. Phillips mentioned, we would put in an impervious area made of millings. There's an awful lot of millings the town gets from milled projects, our own road projects, or state DOT highway projects. They're brought to the highway facility where we can use them at our bulky waste site or other town projects. So we figured we would formalize this area, add a little drainage in that, and really the drainage ends up going to an existing detention basin, which is shown to the rear of the existing outbuilding. So it's just really, putting in, we could easily grade the area. If we put it on the other side of the existing building, we would need a retaining wall. So the grades work well on this side of the building. And we think it would be a good project for police department.
Yeah, it looks like, just to follow up, looks like about 40 cubic yards of fill and then 50 cubic yards of millings on top.
Does any commission members have any questions for either Jim or Rob?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead, Bob
Is there any kind of environmental problem if you have wrecked cars and stuff sitting back there? Jim, you talked something about a retention, but is there any kind of environmental issues that might, if you're going to pave that over?
Well, those types of issues, they like to be on a paved surface just for runoff. But from what I'm told, before the police department gets these vehicles, they're drained of any of the liquids, that would leak as a result of the accident. We're also going to check to make sure BMP's best management practices are used on site, such as hooded catch basins and things of that nature. So, we think we could make it work without causing any pollution.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Coles, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Salka pretty much got exactly what I was looking for. I guess this is an I don't know question. What's the difference between a milling and an actual pavement? Is it the same thing, or I thought one was just like, well, you explain it to me. I'm not gonna make stuff up.
Pavement is usually put hot application when it's applied. Millings come in cold, but they could still be rolled. So to basically create an impervious coverage, I mean, it's not as compact as compacted bituminous pavement, but it packs pretty well, millings.
Yeah, thank you very much I appreciate the explanation.
Thanks, Caleb. Any other questions of the town engineer / planner?
Commissioner Walowski, real quick.
Go ahead, Steve.
Just Caleb, the millings are what they strip off the highway when they're grinding off the existing asphalt. and it's the byproduct of that, and it forms like a processed stone that they can use. And additionally, the Berlin Fire Department has a similar facility, at their firehouse, and it's, done right, and the vehicles are there for a very short period of time while they're inspecting them.
Thanks, Steve. So does anyone have a problem with town staff doing an administrative approval on this item? Okay, I don't hear any, so we'll consider that to be a consensus, Rob.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 9B.
All right, so this one has to do with basically a food truck. Now, most of the time, food trucks are handled through the Zoning Board of Appeals because they're very, very temporary in nature. This one was a little bit different. This one was a proposal to utilize an existing property on Meriden Waterbury Turnpike and kind of set up more of a semi-permanent type of food truck service where you can see on this plan, they have, the food truck is located up in this front corner of the lot. They're proposing some parking along the, I guess this is kind of, looks like the northern side, but it's really the eastern side. And then 6 picnic tables towards the rear. And this is proposed to be seasonal from about April to October. The trucks were moved every night, but the rest of the improvements in the lot, which again aren't really, they don't really rise to the site plan level of improvements that we typically see. So it's kind of like in better way to say it, no man's land as far as what to do with this. It was a little bit more involved in a zoning permit, but obviously less involved in a typical site plan review. So my thought was to push it through an administrative approval. One of the main concerns we have here, well, not we, but any other brick and mortar restaurant would have is that, they certainly can siphon off, patrons from their restaurants, and obviously they're paying less in taxes. So historically, this has always been a little bit of a sticking point at times, not necessarily in Southington because there's a strong, commercial restaurant base already, and there's, a town of 45,000, certainly enough demand there and supply. So my thought was that this could be administrative level. Obviously, if the commission feels otherwise, just let me know. But the applicant's been very, very cooperative and very responsive to our comments.
Thoughts from commission members?
Commissioner Volpe here. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Christina, go ahead first.
The one time I want to go first. Okay, Commissioner Volpe here. I do think this is an interesting thing. I did notice that we don't have much about this in our zoning regulations, so it might be something to consider in the future. I do kind of question the size of the parking spaces, knowing that the truck stop is right down the street, right? And that this is definitely going to be a destination place in the summer. Like, are we going to, I don't know, like my idea is like, can there be something about like the size of the vehicle that can go here? Because I just question that it is such a popular thing that if it gets too busy, I'm just a little concerned about that. However, I do think it's something we should consider because this is what makes it happen. We do have such a variety of food in town, and something like this would be an asset for us, a location for people to come to that they want to check it out. I mean, I'm also a millennial and I love food truck food, so I'll let you know my bias on that, but that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Commissioner Santago?
Yeah, thank you. I'm old and I like food trucks, so.
Good to know. Good to know.
Oh, that's weird. When I worked at Hartford, that's what you did. So Rob, because I remember going back, there was always the issue with food trucks in Signton. So do we have an ordinance? Do we have something where we don't allow it? What's the deal with that?
Well,
I remember this coming up before, and we didn't want to touch it and all this kind of thing. What's some of the history on this?
Well, Typically, food trucks are approved through the zoning board of appeals for, kind of one-time only events, or if they're part of a fair or something similar to the Apple Harvest Fest, they get an annual approval type thing. And so it kind of takes care of itself. They're really itinerant type of uses. But in this case, you're really looking at something that's going to be in a specific location, during the day for a period of 6 months out of the year. So it's a little different than what we.
Okay. All right. Because for me, at this time, where, to be honest, not everybody's comfortable eating inside. And to have another place where you eat outside, I don't think is bad. And I think, to your point, Rob, which is an excellent point, I think the hesitancy the town has always had with food trucks has been it would take away, the perception was it would take away from existing restaurants. And I think that's some years ago, that was the idea. And I think Sunnyton has shown we can handle a lot of restaurants in this town and they all could be successful. So I don't think that point is valid anymore. Now, I get they don't pay taxes. So I get that aspect of it. So in this particular instance, I don't have a particular issue with this, particularly in COVID times. But I think it's valid to Christina's point that if we want to look at food trucks more intently, regulation-wise, because once you approve one, suddenly, what about me, what about me, what about me, kind of comes up. So we may want to start to address that.
Okay.
But otherwise, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with this particular thing, or to have you guys handle it.
Yeah, some towns have really been loosening up their regulations and restrictions on food trucks. They have, food truck festivals and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's been certainly that's a growing, attractive type of industry, I guess, but the only way I can put it. But
Yeah.
certain things have been changing over time, so it's working.
And the thing is too, many brick and mortar restaurants, in addition to that, have a food truck. So if we were to have an existing business in Sunnyton that wanted a food truck too, they can't because we don't allow it or have a thing. So I think that's restrictive. It's just another avenue for someone to, to make money. So for me, aside from taxes, which perhaps we can handle that somehow, I don't know, fee, whatever it is, we could, maybe working in concert with, some other boards, we could, work out something in regards to that. But in terms of zoning, I don't have a particular issue.
Okay. Thanks, Peter. Commissioner Salka.
The only question I have is the signage that might be used. The zoning enforcement officer spends half his time running around with signs. And with the COVID situation, pandemic right now, we've got more of those flag signs flying around and sandwich signs all over the place. How are we going to control that? Or when you handle this administratively, Rob, does he get, how was that handled with the signage and stuff?
So one of our comments that went out to the applicant was that signage will be treated separately under a separate zoning permit, which is what we always do. Mm-hmm. So they would have to have whatever they're proposing to be submitted and approved by zoning permit. Okay. So obviously, they'll get an approval there, depending if they meet the regulations. And then, of course, if there's any temporary signage, you're absolutely right. It's like mushrooms. You got to keep pulling them up around town during, through those commercial corridors. So our ZEO, it's an active thing that he does constantly is kind of try to maintain a level playing field along those commercial corridors.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Coles, saw your hand go up.
So I'm going to try to separate my public health hat from my planning and zoning hat, but a lot of these do overlap, and some of the concerns that I've seen over the past dozen years that I've been on the job, I'll try to summarize for you in 500 words or less. So in my experience, a couple things come up, and what we see is, if this individual, so let me ask you this first. I'll start with the question: does the individual who owns the land also own the business? That's one thing that comes up, and I'll just throw these out for the benefit of the group, and you can kind of mull about it. If they don't, or if the business closes and one person owns a property, and then there becomes a later conflict between that itinerant vendor who's there for some months of the year and not for others of the year, there could be some issues with people just saying, oh, I'm going to go to this property. Having some regulation set in place to spell that out will, on the administrative side, and this is very selfish of me saying that, but I will feel the pain for you, that on the administrative side, if you don't have that stuff in writing, it's gonna be much more difficult. So that's kind of one big piece. To some of the other items, I think that Peter had said. So if a restaurant, bricks and mortar, has a food truck, you know, are they permitted to store that food truck on their property? So like Smoking with Chris, bricks and mortar has a food truck or a food wagon, so to speak. But he doesn't vend out of it there. He just uses it for storage. I'm not exactly sure if that's a concern or if that's something that, you know, we want to weigh in on this whole thing. Another piece of it is, and this is more of a licensing thing with the department, but, you know, we have a business that's going to be there, you know, however many hours a day, which we don't know the operation of, because it's, again, it could be, you know, we could call it bricks and mortar and it would be a breakfast place and you're there for 5 or 6 hours. You have to have facilities for that. And there's requirements for a bricks and mortar if you're going to have dine in, which essentially this is dine in. It's dine in on the property. It just happens to be in on a bench, just because it's in the great outdoors. It's still on the same property. So that's one of the other concerns I have about food trucks in general. You know, there are some other risks associated with it. You know, how does traffic, you know, if you don't have a specific layout to the parking lot that would be reviewed by a site plan, it's kind of the Wild West on these things. And so if you were to do a site plan with the building, we would look at how the parking lot is laid out and how, you know, the entrance to the building is and where that parking area is, as opposed to where the seating area is, and how those two things kind of interact with each other. So I don't want to corner the market on this thing, but I just wanted to throw some of those concerns out to you. I'm cautious, from my experience, about permitting a food truck on a parcel for a long-term period of time. It's one thing, like if we're talking about what's going on in Bushnell Park, where they show up for lunch, they service those office buildings right around the park, and then they amscrape for the day. This is different than that, I think. This is a permanent fixture in a temporary structure, and maybe that term in itself, permanent fixture and temporary structure, itinerant, it kind of, you know, airs out my cautiousness about this particular thing. I'll stop now. Thank you for hearing me.
So I just, before we ask for more input, I just want to let people know, I mean, we're just looking for an authorization to administratively approve this application. If the commission doesn't feel like that's something that they want to do, then we have the ability to say that we want to see an application, as opposed to allowing town staff to administratively authorize it. When administrators, Rob, help me with this. I think I know the answer, but I appreciate your professional perspective on process. When you administratively approve an application such as this, what would the town typically do in terms of process before actually giving it approval?
Well, it's exactly the same process. It just, the difference is that the applicant doesn't need to be kind of bound to presenting at the commission level. So if the commission feels as though this rises above an administrative type thing, and again, this is something that kind of, we've worked out as a policy decision between, staff and the commission. And I'm very appreciative of this. And I think that some applicants are obviously very appreciative of this because it does give them a little bit more of a level of certainty. Again, site plans are, if they meet the regulations, you really have a duty to approve. But, so in this case, if the commission feels as though this should be reviewed at the commission level, I simply will just schedule them for on the next agenda for commission review on April 6th, if that's the feeling of the commission. Otherwise, what we would do is we go through the same thing we normally do, which is staff comments, which we've already sent out. And I was just sharing with the commission. And assuming that those comments are satisfied, then we move on to an approval letter, and then would move on to zoning and whatever other permits that are necessary.
So if I could just make sure that I'm understanding what you just outlined, Rob, you make sure that the proposal is consistent with the town's regulations relative to that portion of wherever it's located. You make sure that it meets the regulations as they're outlined. There's also, if there's in this case, maybe there's a public health needs to weigh in on something, you would make sure that the town's public health would weigh in on it to make sure that they're meeting those regulations and they're not in violation of that. Is that accurate? And it's sort of like an expedited way to get approval.
Right.
If I could phrase it that way.
Yeah, I think another way of looking at this is, we routinely have to make decisions as agents of the commission on a day-to-day basis. And I think another way to look at it here is that this proposal feels like it's a little bit more involved than just a simple zoning permit. So therefore, but again, it doesn't necessarily feel like it's a major site plan modification or a site plan situation, because you don't have really any permanent type changes there. It's semi-permanent. So our feeling was that this is something that we wouldn't want to just take on from a zoning permit standpoint, but to have the commission have a set of eyes on it. So, that's where we're at. And so yeah, the best way I can put it.
Okay. So Commissioner Volpe has her hand up. Well, go ahead, Christina.
I apologize. Just a quick question, actually. Is there any way that, since we don't have anything in the regulations pertaining to this, that we could stipulate or just recommend to you, Rob, to review this again in a year? I mean, it seems like the season is April to October. Something within our regulations may change between now and then, between next year, or if you go ahead and we give you cause to go ahead and do all this stuff. Is this just there and every April through October it's okay to go, because that's a little concerning to me. I would rather want that annual review process, because then it is permanent, you know what I mean, in my opinion. Because that's concerning. We should want to review the food trucks after a year, right? Not only to see if they're fitting within the community, but because they are temporary structures, that they may want to come back and add another 2 food trucks to that lot. We should be prepared for that. So I think an annual review on these things is important. So just a question / comment per usual.
Yeah. So normally with a temporary itinerant type of food truck, it would be something that the zoning board of appeals could recall if there are complaints and issues. So it's kind of one of those things. If there's really no complaints or issues, then it's kind of treated as a reapproval type of thing. That obviously can be the same thing here. And we can certainly write that in the zoning permit approval portion of it, or well, really that's how that would work. As far as what was the other question you had there? You mentioned.
I was just kind of musing, could they come back again and be okay, 2 more food trucks on here, or is that it? I'm just kind of wondering the parameters of this, and should it really be something that we do actually take a further look at?
So obviously any approval site plan, whether it's by the commission or staff, and obviously through the zoning permit process, it'll be very clear. So if they want to intensify any of their previously approved uses, they'd have to come back in for another site plan modification.
Okay, thanks, Rob. I appreciate it.
So unless there's any other questions or comments by members of the commission, Rob is looking for the ability to administratively approve that. Do we have an
Mr. Chairman,
objection?
Mr. Chairman,
Go
just one
ahead.
more question.
Bob Stoker, go ahead. Yep.
From a ZBA perspective, when we talk about a renewal or come back to the ZBA only if there is a complaint, but we write that into the motion, I believe. And we could just as easily write in that they have to return on an annual basis. This is to Christina's point. For something like this, I would like to see an annual, they have to come back on an annual basis to renew, not just based on a complaint. If that can be, if Rob would agree with that.
Well, Rob, is that something that is within your purview, or the way you would typically do this to give a temporary approval on something like this, or?
I mean, yes. I'd probably feel more comfortable if we're going to get into that level of oversight, that maybe the commission, we bring this to a commission level review and decision, simply because that usually is a commission type of stipulation.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing here is it sounds like the commission seems to have some I'll call them reservations on this that they'd like to err on. So maybe there isn't an approval to do an administrative thing. We want to have the actual application come before us.
Yeah, I can easily place it on your the April 6th agenda.
Yeah. Is there any objection or any other thoughts from members of the commission?
Commissioner calls. One last thing. I promise it'll be quick.
Caleb, I think we've decided that we're putting this on the agenda. This is not the last bite at the apple on this application and or food trucks.
Yeah, no, but it just might help in the long run. Licensing is done annually for this particular district, so that that might kind of help in framing that too for you guys when it comes up.
Okay, great. So Rob, if you could put this on the agenda for the March 6th.
Certainly.
Any other administrative items? Rob, I know you mentioned something about the West Street study that's going on. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick update. Obviously, the coronavirus has slowed down a number of things in many different towns across the country. But the West Street Transportation Corridor study, it is still moving. There was a pause, obviously. They are currently, as of a few weeks ago, going through stakeholder, large property owner outreach. And I expect, some movement happening shortly as far as moving into, the initial stages of, organizational type meetings, hopefully in the next month or so. So I just wanted to update the commission that it is still moving a little bit behind the scenes right now, but we certainly had at least a 6 to 8 month pause in activity because of everything that was going on.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts on that? I mean, the West Street study is a study that's being done jointly by South Central, or I'm sorry, the Central Connecticut COG?
Yeah, it's the well, they don't exist anymore, but it's the Naugatuck Valley, I think Naugatuck COG, along with CROG as well too. So it's a kind of a joint type project.
Yeah, it's looking at that corridor from development purposes and that type of thing. I think we briefed you all in the past on that.
Down to just around the interchange.
Yeah, we did that a couple of years ago.
I want to bring up as well too is that there is another round of basically a solicitation for other transportation corridor studies. The POCD did mention that the Meriden Waterbury Turnpike and Queen Street again could be focus of the study. We obviously, with our budgets, we didn't plan on any of this, so there's really no funding available. But having said that, because we've been doing so many, exclusively online meetings, and we haven't had to pay for any advertising in the newspapers, we're actually going to be saving this fiscal year right now close to $20,000. So there is the potential that I could do a carry forward of that money if we wanted to engage and put in a bid basically for another transportation corridor study, probably the Meriden Waterbury Turnpike, because it hasn't had the benefit of one of those. So I don't know what the commission's feeling is on that right now, or if you want to just stick with, just focusing on one study at a time.
We have the West Street one underway. I don't know if there's any thoughts from the commission members on going after a similar study along either of those two corridors.
Commissioner Volpe here. Yeah, I think it sounds like a great idea. Let's go ahead and do that.
Well, let's see where it goes, right? What I said to Rob, the worst that they could say is no.
Yeah, it's competitive. So certainly, the town could be, on the hook for 10 to 20% of the cost of at least $150,000 study. So, there's some money there. It depends on what it would be, but the cost wise. But we could certainly entertain taking a look at it and see if it has any traction.
Okay, sounds good, Rob. Item 10, anything scheduled for public hearings?
No, just a reminder that the Lanning Street 830G is going to be coming up on the April 6th meeting as well, too. I'm trying to work with the applicant on trying to get a complete application, which includes changes to the the HOD zone, Housing Opportunity District, and of course that would require an HOD zone change and an associated site plan, very similar to the Liberty Street application.
Okay. Any new applications, item 11?
Not at this time.
Okay. Anything else from commission members? Nothing? Okay. I'll just say that yesterday there was a public hearing on the bill that was drafted by Desegregate CT. I think it's Senate Bill 1026 or 1029. Planning and
24.
Development Committee had a hearing on that yesterday. It lasted roughly almost 24 hours, I think. But that was held, and that is a bill that's being considered by the Planning and Development Committee up in Hartford. So if you have any thoughts on it, I encourage you to contact any member of our legislative delegation. I think we all know who those people are, and share it with them if you want to. It's up to you. Unless anyone else has anything else that they want to talk about, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Salker makes a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Volpe with a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Good job tonight, folks.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks again, Jeremy, for all your help. Appreciate it.
I'm just messing with you guys now. Okay, bye. See you later.